County Board meeting for July 18th. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Are there any disclosures of interest this morning? All right, hearing none, we'll move on. Review and approve the previous board meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the previous board meeting minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Review and approve the county board agenda. Are there any changes?
Chair, there's one addition, and I'd like to put it under the consent agenda. For item 6, it's notice of public hearing and intent to enact Goodhue County Housing Trust Fund ordinance.
All right, we have one more. All right, we have one addition. Like,
Move approval of the county board agenda as amended.
Second.
all right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion passes. All right, review and approve the county consent agenda, including number 6 for the
Setting a public hearing. That's
Setting a
all,
public-
all we're doing, setting the public hearing, right?
Yes.
Move approval as presented.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve consent agenda. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that motion passes. Hang on while I get my papers all in order here. Regular agenda, county administrators report.
Thank you. It's my pleasure today to introduce Rhonda Van Schoonhoven. She is the new court services director. She was selected through a process with the district court and Goodhue County to be our next court services director. So Rhonda, if you'd come forward and just introduce yourself a little bit to the county board, that'd be great.
Good morning.
Good morning. So I came to Goodhue County in 1990 as an intern, and I'm still here. I did 20 years as a juvenile agent and the last 13 as an adult agent. So I'm super excited to lead the office in a new direction. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, welcome.
All the way from the bottom.
That is kind of interesting. You said you started as an intern.
I did start as an intern, and then I was hired my last semester of college as an alcohol caseworker, because at that time, Goodhue County had about 200 alcohol offenders, juvenile alcohol offenders, and they had to have somebody to manage that population. And then in December, I got hired as an agent.
Needless to say, you've seen a lot
I
and you've
have.
seen a lot of change.
Correct.
But that's a wonderful story to come in from as an intern and end up as the director of the program.
Mhm.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
The next item, Briggs Topol will present. So Briggs, you want to come forward? He's our outreach and communications specialist. And Briggs, I assume you heard that stuff about the intern, starting as an intern and staying for a long period of time.
Oh, yeah. Good morning, commissioners. So I just want to acknowledge, you guys have heard a lot of numbers today, and I do not envy you guys and your guys' choices on what's going to be affecting the budget as well as the levy. But to kind of keep you guys at ease, this discussion we're going to have today has nothing to do with the budget nor the levy, but instead we're going to be talking about ARPA dollars. So just want to frame that conversation for you guys before we enter that space, if you will. But I kind of want to talk about a little bit about our website. Our website is our biggest communication tool. It receives roughly 400,000 hits per year. It's an extremely important communications tool for us. And as of right now, it has a couple of faults, some of which staff can control and some of which we're going to need additional resources to address, which has kind of been the theme as you've been hearing today. But I kind of want to start off with ADA compliance. Right now, our website is really only 67% ADA compliant as notified to us by our current software provider. In 2022, the U.S. Department of Justice issued the following position, quote, Title II of ADA, or Americans with Disabilities Act, prohibits discrimination against people with disabilities in all services, programs, and activities of state and local governments. State and local governments must take steps to ensure that their communications with people with disabilities are as effective as their communications with others. And many state and local government services, programs, and activities are now being offered on the web. And for these reasons, the Department of Justice has consistently taken the position that the ADA's requirements apply to all these services, programs, or activities of state and local governments, including those offered on the web. There's actually been an increase in lawsuits around ADA compliance on our website. Sorry, not on our website, but around websites in general around the country. And so that's a great of concern for us. And so we're hoping with this proposal, we'll be able to address that and kind of take a proactive approach for our website and protecting the county and making it less liable, if you will. Some of the accessibility features that we're hoping to address. There are built-in screen readers that you can provide people that would allow for people to hear the page's text read aloud without them having to install a third-party text or external screen reader. There are also abilities to provide immediate dictionary access to the website to understand certain terms, which is great benefits to users that have cognitive disabilities and non-native English speakers. Also, there might be moving images or videos on our website, and those can be distracting to some people, and they can even cause triggers at some, trigger seizures, sorry, at some points. And so having a built-in pause of animations can help greatly, but also not hinder website design potential. There's also the ability to enhance readability of the website's text to become more friendly to dyslexic readers. And these are all consistent with the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, or the WCAG. Our current software provider offers some of these accessibility tools that I've mentioned, but they come at extra charges ranging from $5,900 for kind of a hands-on accessibility tool, which is something that we would have to manage, which is extra staff time as well, versus $6,900 for a hands-off accessibility tool, which is something that I think we'd lean more towards. So keep those numbers in mind as we move forward with the conversation. Additionally, our website has a formatting issue. The current software provider allows for there to be 3 columns on the website itself, and it's just very text heavy. And if you try to remove one or the other, you're removing critical information, which is either featured links that allow people to more easily and readily navigate our webpage versus the contact information, which can be important for people that want to talk to somebody directly versus trying to find stuff on the web as well. 67% of our website visitors are actually accessing through their smartphones, and currently our website's format doesn't adapt to smartphones, meaning that they are trying to then navigate through a lot of formatting to get to basic information, and we think that's something that we can fix with this as well. Additionally, on the back end of all this, the interface for staff editing, it's very complex. I like to think I'm a pretty tech savvy person, and it's even been complex for me to learn as well. I'm now just starting to get a hand on it. But as we move forward, we're wanting to make sure that these pages are easily editable by staff. So in that way they can go in and they can navigate to their content, and that they can change that without having to consistently reach out to people who navigate the page most frequently. So there's a couple options that we've come up with. Right now, our current software provider offers us to do a redesign, if you will, every 4 years. We were up for it, I think, last year. We decided to wait as we're currently going through the rebranding. And this refresh would just change the layout of the front page itself, but it does not add accessibility tools. We have to opt into those, as I mentioned earlier. And it also does not change anything on the back end of stuff as well. So that means staff still have to navigate through all that complex interface in the back end as well. Or there's option 2, which is what I'm recommending to the board, which would be to allocate ARPA funds from broadband to this project, so we could go out with the communications committee that is put forward an RFP and then try to explore alternative website software providers and see if we can get a little bit more of those boxes checked, if you will. There are other software providers which include adaptive accessibility features in their pricing points. And so that's not something that we have to add on versus with our current software provider. This would also make it adaptable to screens of the user. So we'd be more focusing on a user experience, if you will. And other softwares provide emphasis on back-end interface accessibility as well. So it also address staffing concerns on wanting to be able to edit the web pages more efficiently. And obviously the benefit is that this would have no burden on the budget or the levy or any of those decisions that you guys are faced with as well. It also is just kind of a better use of staff time. The refresh with our current website provider would be about 8 to 10 months, they said, and that's just changing the front end of things versus if we go through the RFP process. The RFP process would be probably about 3 months versus the redesign. We've talked kind of preliminary with another company just to get pricing points and kind of timelines for you guys and to kind of put this memo together. And they said it would maybe take 5 to 6 months on that. So it's just kind of also a better use of staff time in general. And as we've learned, time is money. So we also think that there's some savings to come with this as well. As I've mentioned, accessibility is a key feature that we want to move forward with at some point. And the accessibility features on other software providers are actually significantly less expensive versus the ones that we'd have to opt into with our current software provider. And so if we were to enroll into those accessibility features, we'd actually be saving $16,000 over the next 4 years. And again, that money would not affect the levy. And also, we think that taking away $60,000 from broadband line wouldn't affect the ability to fund broadband significantly. There's still increased money through the county, through our grant programs. But on top of that, there's also been increased money coming down from the state as well as the federal government just in the past couple months. So there's an abundance of broadband money. And so we think that taking away $60,000 wouldn't be a big hit to us making sure that we're still pushing forward our broadband initiatives and our goals with that. This would also allow for staff to kind of increase additional savings to be more friendly with the interfacing. Steps we're currently taking is we're actually going to be re-putting back together a webmaster subcommittee to be a subcommittee of the communications committee. And that committee will be meeting to create guidelines for posting on their websites. And that way we can decrease faulty information, take down dated and irrelevant pages and documents, and subsequently increase user experience and county savings. Website providers base their pricing points on how many pages and documents we upload. And so with these guidelines, we believe that we can decrease the amount of pages that we have on our website and the documents that we're utilizing. And so there could actually be more cost savings over the year with these guidelines as well. We'll also be able to cancel our subscription to Site Improve. What this does is it emails me, I think, on a weekly or monthly basis, and it provides reports of if we have broken links, misspellings, etc. And if we get rid of that with this new interface, it would also save us like $9,200 over the next 4 years as well. So there's an abundance of cost savings with this as well. And a lot of this money would actually be replacing current money that we save. So in reality, it's not the biggest allocation, but we still wanted to bring this forward and ask for your permission to move forward with this process. So I'll open up for any questions if you have any.
Right. Questions or comments from the board?
My understanding is that the recommendation is to go with option 2.
Yes.
I would move that we do option 2 based on the information you've given us.
I'll second that.
All right, it's been moved and seconded.
I just want to know one thing.
Yes.
400,000 hits a year.
Mhm.
Can we move the needle farther away from the hits that just go to look at the jail roster and more towards the hits that go to look for job opportunities in the county?
We'll look into it.
Because we all know that the jail roster is the #1 thing that people go to the county website to look up.
Yes.
And I think that should change.
I did have an opportunity to look over several county websites throughout the state. Some were really easy for me to maneuver and get through and find the things I needed, and some were very difficult. Ours was not the most difficult, but I would say it's somewhat difficult. So I would.
I think adjusting to this,
Yes,
making
that's a
content
federal,
more,
ADA.
this is how everybody does it. They're gonna stand out on the street and try to figure out something. It's here and we need to adapt to what the public is doing. So I think moving towards that direction is the right move.
All right, so it's been moved and seconded to go with option 2, correct?
Yes.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
I,
Anyone opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you,
all.
Bryce.
Can't believe they didn't ask me to be a consultant.
Hey, you can always
with your
respond.
flip phone?
Kennet Valley Trail. Or not?
Is Scott here?
Nope, he's not.
Yeah, well, let's take it up when he gets here.
I'm sorry,
The memo's also from you though, Linda.
what?
Yeah.
Let's take it up when Scott gets here. Just move on to Brian.
All right, finance director's report.
Andrea, can you email?
Hello again. We have three things before you today, and the first one is pretty much routine. It calls for a public hearing. The Express 61 has changed hands, and with that, the off-sale liquor license does not transfer ownership. You have to you have to apply through the state and through us to get a new license for that. So therefore, that's what the request is here before the board today, to hold the public hearing to establish new off-sale intoxicating liquor license for the applicant at a 61 Express in Frontenac, Minnesota.
So this is to set the public hearing.
No, this would be the public hearing.
Oh, this is the public hearing. You are correct. Sorry, I was looking at the one after that. We need a motion to open.
Move to open public hearing on off-sale liquor license for Highway 61 Express.
Right, we have a second.
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Public hearing is open.
I have nothing additional.
All right, do we have anyone that would like to speak for or against the public hearing on the 61 Express off-sale liquor license? All right, second request, is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on this topic? All right, third and final time, anyone from the public that would like to speak on this particular issue, the 61 Express liquor license?
Move to
All right,
close
wait.
public comment. Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, we are back to,
And the only thing I would add is this has gone through all the backgrounds and just seeking your approval at this time.
Move approval to grant the license.
Second.
moved and seconded to accept the license. Any other comments or questions? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. Second item is to take a look at the broadband request that we have before us with the ARPA money through broadband. And as you know, through recent conversations, we did go out set out another round for grant money for broadband. We did get one applicant back that you see before you today, and that would be Southeast Minnesota Wi-Fi LLC. And with that, they are seeking $112,138 for their project, which is a total of $236,080. And this would serve 18 unserved passings. And with that as well, each passing is going to cost about $6,200. And again, these are the more challenging ones to get to. And you can see in the middle of the discussion there on the trail, the different areas that you can see the Rivanna Trail, 225th, 155th, and 230th Street for the total of 18 homes, farms, and businesses. And you can see the little map off on the side where the project location is going to be. Just wanted to give you a little bit of reference on that. That's their area. I'm not saying everything is heavily populated in that area as to what they serve, but that's what I could find out on that. And you can see on the second page kind of where they lie as far as the amount, as far as the $6,200 per passing. Some of the other ones that we've approved recently have come in at like $3,500 or $4,700. Some of the other ones too actually had state grant money and stuff too. So this one does not have any state grant money attached to it. And it's been reviewed by staff, and with that, we are recommending that it does get approved. Currently, there is $613,000 left with, well, minus what Briggs just took. Anyways, $613,000, and then minus this 112,000 brought us to 501 minus the 60 that you just approved as well, so. So with that, I can stand for any questions. And so what you're really approving is the broadband agreement between Goodhue County and Southeast Minnesota Wi-Fi LLC.
That's my understanding. Welch Township has also put some money into this.
Yes, I believe on the second page, it shows they put in 50. let's see.
5,000 or 5%.
5%, I think it said.
Well, they said 5%. I actually put the dollar amount in, so those numbers off on the side were my percent. So I think they did a little rounding, quite honestly, but closer to 3%. But regardless, it's still within the ballpark of what we've seen before, like 5,900, I believe.
Question, all these are in Goodhue County. How close are we to the border?
Pretty close, but they're within Goodhue County.
And are they is it Wi-Fi or is it fiber?
I believe it is fiber.
It is fiber. Okay. Move approval.
Second it.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to accept Southeast Minnesota Wi-Fi broadband agreement. Any other comments or questions? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes.
And then the final one, Lucas will come up here and present an update on the ARPA budget for us.
Morning again. As Brian just said, I'm going to provide an update to the ARPA program and then some potential changes to the ARPA budget as well. So the actual updates are, there were 5 different items that came in under budget. So this frees up $156,000 to be used for other items. These are listed out in the memo. There's a couple different scanning projects. The board meeting minute scanning project came in under budget, $80,000. Some parcel split information scanning project, about $51,000. Personnel files, $2,400. Some election equipment came in under budget, about $20,000. And then another program with the Soil and Water Conservation District came in $1,900 under budget. So we have, as I said, an additional $156,000 that we can, that was freed up, we can use for other projects. Then the other potential update items would be an increase in cost of the ARPA budget of approximately $331,000. And now these items were previously approved at the last board meeting to be spent out of the building contingency funds. So this would be the about $96,000 increase in costs of the rooftop units for the government center, as well as about $280,000 related to the phase 1 implementation of the government center master implementation plan. So rather than spending the money out of the building contingency fund, which I know it took several years to build up that reserve balance, we could spend that money down out of the ARPA budget, and then we wouldn't have to levy for that, building that reserve back up over time. So if we did that, the remaining balance in the ARPA budget, as you can see on the following pages, excuse me, that remaining balance on there would be the $331,000. Each of the line items on this budget were updated to call out those specifically, so you can see the changes that were made. So I guess at this time, I'm willing to take any questions, but really we're just recommending the updates to the budget as stated.
The other option that you have as well is to add that 156 into the current contingency and not take out that 375, and then you can later on this year make the decision on what you want to do after you get more information from the budget. However, obviously you already approved to spend that $96,000 and the $280,000. And the bills are coming in for that. So that's why Lucas is wondering, do you want to do that, which would bring down the contingency more in here, or do you want to hold off and make that decision later on what money you want to use to pay for what?
Questions from the board?
Knowing how long and how hard it took to build the contingency fund up there, I really would like to put it back into the contingency fund and not take those dollars out of there.
And you see ARPA funding.
Use the ARPA funding, yeah. That's right. That's how I'd like to do it, because we can always take it out of there later.
I agree with Brad.
It took us several years to
Mhm.
go from 89,000 in that fund to
1.3.
1.3 million, and quite frankly, 1.3 million, as we see, when you start a project, it disappears extremely fast. And it is exactly what it is. It's kind of an emergency fund for building and grounds, not a funding source for buildings and grounds. So my inclination is to put it back, but
Do you need a motion to move forward? Or
Yes,
just
please.
consensus?
Motion would be fine. We can
Alright.
always put it back, let her do it.
I'd move to do that.
All right, you make a motion
For the whole
to take
budget.
the money from the ARPA funds.
Take the dollars from the ARPA fund, use the dollars from the ARPA fund savings and put them, not take the money out of building contingency.
Correct. And to approve the budget as presented.
Yep.
The budget doesn't present.
I'll second it.
Right? Been moved and seconded to accept the ARPA budget update as presented. Any other comments? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Land Use Management Director's Report.
Thank you. Right. This morning we have two public hearings on the docket. The first one is considering Goodhue County zoning ordinance updates to Article 10, Article 11, and Article 20. This is just some amending of some definitions for things like farm, agricultural operation, adding rural tourism and replacing non-agricultural uses associated with agritourism with rural tourism. The County Planning Commission did hold a public hearing on these items and has recommended that the county board approve the amendments to Articles 10, 11, and 20. Just one thing I wanted to note, in the June Planning Commission meeting minutes, you would see that the public hearing, there were several concerned citizens from Vesa Township that attended to voice their concerns about a project on Wild Turkey Road. Staff is aware of this property and has been working with the owners and neighbors for some months. So the proposed ordinance changes are not being done just to assist or to affect that one property. This would affect the entire county. So we will have the public hearing now.
Questions, comments?
Move to open public hearing.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to open the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
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 We are now open to public hearing. Are there people who would like to speak on this topic? Anyone from the public that would like to speak on the Goodhue County zoning ordinance updates? Third and final time, is anyone from the public who would like to speak on the county zoning ordinance update? All right, motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes to close the public hearing. Motion for the board.
Do you have any comments, Todd?
Nope, no, we've been working on this for over a year just to clarify things for land use management, so.
I think the changes make a lot of sense. They clear up some kind of gray areas, maybe.
All right, we need a
Move
motion.
approval to approve the changes as presented.
We have a second.
Second.
All right, any other comments or questions? All right, all those in favor in changing the county's zoning ordinance to update it? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? That motion passes.
All right, thank you. Second item we have is another public hearing for a change of zone request in Cannon Falls Township on 338th Street Way. This would be to rezone 46.89 acres from general agriculture to the R1 residential district to allow the establishment of at least one dwelling would be allowed. In order to add any more dwellings than just the one, a formal plat would need to be provided and approved after a public hearing process by the planning commission and the county board. Any new dwellings would also be required to obtain appropriate well and septic permits from the county's environmental health department, of course. And Cannon Falls Township did note that as they are the right-of-way authority, there may be some road work that needs to be done. If dwellings are added on this road, that would need to be worked out with the township during any building permit process, as the road is kind of narrow leading down to this area. The planning commission did consider this request and held a public hearing at their June 15th meeting. There were some concerned neighbors that attended the public hearing, and the planning commission did recommend that the county board deny the map amendment request due to negatively impacting surrounding property owners by adding additional septic systems to the area, adding density in a section that is already overbuilt, avoiding spot zoning, and the request appeared to be made solely for financial benefit. So staff has included the planning commission's recommendation for denial. We also included our original recommendation to approve the rezoning request. Any questions?
I have two questions. I believe there was a similar adjacent property that was approved in 2022. And my question is, how is this different than that property? So that's one question. My second question is are the number of septic systems on these properties an issue? And can you tell me about spot zoning? So I guess three questions.
Okay. Yes. How is this different than the request from 2022? First, as you know, as a planner by trade, this request is actually better because the original 2022 or the first 2022 request had access coming off of Highway 52. When you're looking at access off of a MnDOT, especially a busy road like that, you're looking at, there's a lot of hoops to jump through for them. This is coming off of a less traveled township road. And so this would lend itself better to adding a dwelling site more easily instead of trying to get access off of Highway 52, where they are trying to prevent at-grade accesses.
Septic.
So we did look at the septic systems in the area. They are all in compliance, the ones that we have records on. Lisa did some research on that.
Yes, good morning. Yeah, we did look at the surrounding septics and most of them, we have one that we don't have any information on, so it's pretty old. The most recent one was compliant in 2015. I would say since the early 90s, the county has been doing inspections and permitting septics. So, and with 2014 change in the ordinance, anytime somebody changes property, they have to have a septic compliance. So we feel like we're pretty much on top of the systems being in good working order. Obviously, there's going to be some old ones we don't have records of, but there's going to be some issues. But we have a pretty good program. So personally, I don't think that is a reason to deny.
Adding a new septic system on this property doesn't create a hazard? Is that what?
I don't believe so, because it's being engineered, it's being inspected, and typically the waste or the system doesn't go very far off from where the system is actually created. So we don't, as staff, we don't feel that that's a reason to deny.
I see. And my third one was, what's the issue with spot zoning? I didn't quite understand that.
Spot zoning is where if we wanted to rezone to a residential district in the middle of an agricultural district with no other residential zoned properties in the vicinity or even touching this property, if you're just throwing a residential zoned property in the middle of a section that's entirely zoned agricultural, that would be considered spot zoning, which in the planning trade is to be avoided. But as you mentioned earlier, there is a property that does abut this one that was rezoned to residential district last year. This is also like a quarter mile from the Serendipity addition in Leon Township. All of that is also zoned residential. So for staff, this would not be considered a spot zoning request, as there are residential zoned properties in the vicinity.
I see. Thank you.
All right, we need to open it to a public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to open this request for a map amendment rezoning to a public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, motion passes. We are in a public hearing. Anyone like to speak? Thank you very much. Please let us know your name and your address, please.
Stanley Bryzik, 6825 338 Straightway. My property butts up against this property. My concern is we've got enough houses in that part of the section anyway. We've got the majority of the houses in that section are right in our area. There's already overabundance. When I bought the property, I bought it because I wanted to get out of the city where I could hunt in that. Possibility if they put these houses in there, one of these houses that they put in could be within 150 feet of where my garage is. So it's just getting too close. If I wanted to stay in the city, I just stayed in the city. We've got, like say, this section's only supposed to have 16 people. We've already got 19. Granted, the section's a little bit bigger than the rest, but we've already got 19. So this could possibly put us up to 22, as they said, because they want to make it for 3 houses. So I'm totally against it. I want to keep it rural like it should be. The rest of the county is all agricultural. I think this should be kept agricultural too. It doesn't do nothing for the rest of us other than cost us money when they go and redo the road. It's money that we have to pay that isn't going to do us any good, and most of us can't afford because a lot of us are already retired.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak to this?
Hi. My name is Mark Nelson and I live at 7506 Highview Road.
I'm sorry, would you be willing to have a seat
Oh,
to speak into the microphone? That's how it gets recorded. Thank you.
Yep, sorry. My name is Mark Nelson. I live at 7506 Highview Road in Cannon Falls, and I own a farmer up there, and I own some land adjacent, or not adjacent, but in relative proximity. Just want to say that I am opposed to rezoning it to residential. And the reason is we have been taking soil samples, and some of these soil samples, I have some copies. What happens is the gravel, the dust from the road with increased traffic, we are finding that the dust, which is from the crushed rock, is increasing the pH along the roads from the dust that's created by traffic. And we are having to deal with that problem. We can increase the back sides of the, if you don't mind, I can give you some copies of some soil samples that were taken. Pass those on down. Well, there are 2 different samples. Along the road, you'll see that the pH is much higher. And this is along Serendipity. And so with the farming, it's as we get that pH up, it's very difficult to get it back down. And how it affects the crops is it limits the root growth. And we see that the crops are not growing very well along the road. And thank goodness, you know, we used to take soil samples and as a whole, and now we can do these grid sampling, so we can specify where we want to put our attention to. So my concern is that allowing and changing this is going to increase more traffic. We can't go back and take less traffic, but going forward, let's keep the traffic down. I think from farming standpoints and how it's affecting agriculture and changing our land near the road is how it affects me. And so that's, I am opposed to it. So,
Thank you very much. Is
thank you.
there anyone else who would like to speak to it?
Good morning. My name is Ken Tennyson. I live at 34060 Serendipity Road, which is around the curve from the proposed property. Little map here. There's two in there that I can show you something. I've been a neighbor of Connie's for many years. I've known her. She's been a good neighbor. And I've known her and her husband. They've been great people. But I'm concerned about a few things. All the cars that are on this road between on Highway 65 Avenue, up Highview Road, Serendipity, and the two little legs that come off there. One trip per day, just going to town. There's between 90 and 105 cars a day going off of that road. They either got to go in town to go to Highway 25 on the back way or else up to the roundabout. That's not returning people at all. And many of them people have to make many trips a day. Now, added to that, their daily routine is school buses, which are 9 months out of the year, up and back. Sometimes they're up at noon and back because they got kids that go to school, only part-time. UPS, FedEx, Amazon are all up there 2 or 3 trips a day. LP trucks, fuel trucks, they're up there delivering fuel to different places. The road grader's up probably once or twice a month. He doesn't do a complete road grade job. They come up, he hits the bumps and goes. He comes up into our area, which is Leon Township, turns around, goes back out. I haven't seen them laid down at all lately. We get a lot of vehicles coming up there just for viewing because we live up on top of the hill there and they want to see where it is. They come up there and look around. In the evenings, trips to town, people go back and forth to go to shopping, come over to Red Wing, go to Northfield, or go to Hastings. They go to basketball games, baseball games, football games, soccer games, and these are all extra trips on that road. Snowplow comes up there, and I have to say something about the snow plowing. He comes out, they put fresh gravel down the summer. Comes in the wintertime, he comes with the snow plow down on the ground. There's our rock. We got more rock in the ditch than what we got on the road. And then they got to bring more fresh rock up there again. So that's all costing more for us up there as people. Our taxes are going up. The place next to me was sold this last year. It sold at 600 and some thousand. My taxes just jumped by 75,000. My newest appropriation, or the one that I got scheduled this past week. There's 3 different types of garbage disposal trucks come up there per week. And some of them come up twice because they could pick up the recycle and so forth. So that's a lot of, our road can't handle it. This morning I measured the road that turns down to this here where we want to go down, and they want to put these here houses in. Measures 22 foot wide to where the edge of the grass is. That's on this here 338th, I think it is. On the other, or 20 foot wide. If you go down the other road, it's 23 foot wide. So if 2 cars are meeting there, or if farm equipment's there, or a semi's there, we're pretty well loaded up. And out of all the people that live up there, I think there's, like I said, I got a list of all of them on the map there. There's a number of retired people living up there. They all bought their property years ago to live out in the country. Now we're going to have more houses out there. But some of them can't afford. I'm retired. Some of the other gentlemen here are retired. And there's many other ones that couldn't make it up here that are retired. and they can't afford to have all these taxes and this price going up each year. And if this road has to be upgraded, that's gonna come out of my pocket and everybody who's on that map there. If anybody's got any questions, I'd appreciate it. If not, I think that concludes what I have.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this issue? There you go.
Thank you.
I'm Bob Stahlberger with Whitetail Properties Real Estate. I'm here helping Connie in this decision. I've got a map I can share with the board. That map is an overview outline of Connie's property. That's a subject property. The yellow horseshoe, if you will, shows the area that's really buildable on her property due to contour lines, and I think Sam can contest to that. She's looked at it. One of the 4 concerns of the advisory board was the fact of septic. That outline shows about 3 acres that would be really doable for a building site. As Sam noted, the request is R1 because we want 1 residence there. R1 allows 1 to 3 homes, but that would take a platting commission and public hearing if someone were to build more than 1 home there. So today, we're looking for a rezone. If someone wants to try to do 3 homes or 2 homes, they'd have to have another public hearing for such things, which would include having to have septic, original septic site and a secondary site on any of those lots. So we're not asking the commission to approve 3 building sites. We're asking it to be rezoned R1. Whoever wants to build will then have to go through that process and meet those requirements and be approved for those if they want more than 1 house. So we talk about the other concerns the advisory board talked about was spot zoning. It is not spot zoning. The property directly south of touching this property was already rezoned R1. The folks here that have commented about their request not to have it rezoned, I don't know if they were here at the last board meeting when the neighboring property, because they are all within distance of getting notice, it did have, that was approved for R1. The other one was hunting. Well, one of the neighbors is concerned about hunting. His shed is not within 150 feet of where that house can be built. If you can look at that map, and I can draw it up, I can pull it up on a map, where the houses can be built on that property are a long distance from the property line even. So I understand I'm a hunter myself, so I respect the ability to be able to hunt your own property. The law does not require him to have any setback from his property line to hunt himself. So having another dwelling on that property would not cause him not to be able to hunt his property. Density. You know, I think you guys, I'm sure Hal have the report from Sam's office talking that this section is a bigger section. And so the density currently is 19. Our request again is R1, asking for 1 approved site, which would take us to 20. So cars traveling, the specs previous people spoke about, unless the county has actually studied that, is all hearsay. We don't know if it's actually 90 or 100 cars one way a day. I'm pro farmer, so I appreciate that. The information of soil types, there's nothing to compare it from that property to another property. So if that hasn't been studied, I find it hard to be able to weigh on that, those results, because we haven't studied it from one property and next, and adding 1 house if it's going to make a difference or not.
No, I will, no, that's those are the big ones. I'm gonna go find them. I had to write mine down because I get distracted.
And name and address, please.
I'm Connie Boddicker, 6842 338th Street Way. I'm the landowner asking to be rezoned from A2 to A1 or R1. And I appreciate the opportunity to run this past you again. When my husband Rick and I moved here 35 years ago, the city of Cannon Falls and the township were really inflexible. You never got past the township to even approach the county.
they seem to drive away anyone interested in making improvements, building a home and a life in the country, or starting a new business. Because of this inflexibility, I think people moved out of the area and their businesses went out. I've seen it over and over. I've been here a long time. As of late, I think they're imagining a new future for our area, surrounding area. Cannon Falls is a beautiful community with natural resources and places to play, and they need places to live as well. Cannon Falls is almost equidistant from the Twin Cities, Rochester, Northfield, and Red Wing. They continue to make improvements and expansions and are all within commuting distance from here. And a lot of times people just bypass Cannon Falls, and even the people from Cannon Falls just go to the surrounding communities because there's not enough here yet. There was a real good article in the Cannon Falls Beacon about how we are not doing the improvements that they had promised years ago, and you know, our growth is just stagnant, really. In the past couple of years, however, there's been a lot of improvements to the area, from closing direct access to Highway 52, adding frontage roads and traffic circles. Mayo came to town with a new hospital and staff. A grand event center is going up, and as I understand it, a restaurant. There's senior living accommodations, and a high-rise apartment is built, with another one rumored to be going up soon. It's bringing life back to Cannon Falls and to the southern end of, especially the southern end of Cannon Falls, which is where I live. I'm 2 miles out of town. These changes are meant to accommodate more population, I believe, and get Cannon Falls thriving again in its surrounding area. I feel that my request is really small in perspective to what is going on around with the roads and the improvements. With that being said, I'm very, very pleased to have gotten the verbal blessing from both the county offices and the township, because the township's been almost impossible over the years. However, the Planning Commission Advisory Committee temporarily shot down my plan to put my land to its best possible use and generate property taxes for the county as well. In my opinion, the 4 reasons they cited, we've already gone over the septic. It's not an issue. It is not spot rezoning. And the hunting, you know, if my neighbor hunts his own property, he will never be affected by this house. And I'm asking for just to make it a 1-house buildable site. The fourth reason is the density. And I mean, I'm real big on the math thing. A typical section is a mile square. Our section is 1.5 miles by a mile. And if 14 were allowed on a mile square, and it was 50% larger, that would bring that to 7 more homes, making it 21. So we're not even asking to hit the maximum for that area in terms of density. Let's see. And so if within a mile and with 1.5 miles square, it would be up to 21. I have one question for the board. Is there a frontage road planned between the circles, the roundabout circles, and Skunk Hollow Road? Because there's several houses below that have access directly onto 52. Are they going to shut them off? Do you know?
There is not, at this point, there's
No
been
plan.
no plans to disconnect Skunk Hollow,
Oh, okay.
Skunk Hollow, or
Or the 2 houses in
the
there.
2 houses below
Okay.
that are closer to Cannon Falls,
Okay.
nor the ones on the west side of 52. Lyle Lawrence's and used to be, I don't remember, Barnes or whatever on the other side over there.
And it's not.
Or the top of Wagner Hill either.
Oh, okay. Okay.
There's no, at this point, no plans.
And like Bob was showing you the map, if you look at the map, there's only really good logical place for a dwelling up on top. And it's cleared now. There is an outbuilding, I have a nice barn there. But everything else is steep and there's no chance. Another homestead on my 46.7 acres would be in sight by exactly one home, mine, the one I live in. Nobody else would even see that home unless they were on the road driving into their driveway. They would catch a glimpse of the house. There's up to 3 neighbors that might notice a house back in the woods because it's on the dead end road. You know, it's just woods. And, you know, I lost my husband 2 years ago, and I find it nearly impossible to manage 60 acres with my house, the grounds, fence, outbuildings. I'm 66 years old. I'm actually younger than the people that would be retiring. And this is my life's inheritance. This is what I am going to use for the rest of the life. At the Planning Advisory Committee, a member mentioned my possible profit. He mentioned it 3 times. And he also said it was not to be considered as part of the factor. Well, if my land appreciates, their land will appreciate as well, the other people. But he kept saying that it didn't matter, but he kept mentioning it. And I found that very strange. I was appalled when the people at this meeting clapped because of the failure that they perceived I was having there. And I thought, I've never even met those people. Now, the neighbors here are my neighbors, and they're good neighbors. I understand their concerns. But the people that were clapping and carrying on like they were not even there for my issue. They were just there as spectators. But in closing, I really would appreciate if you would reconsider this, because I just feel that the impact would be so minimal that, you know, traffic on the road and whatnot. All of our ground is limestone. I live on a limestone hill. And so if this limestone rock is going into the air because of traffic, it's already there. It's already in the ground. Yeah, I just feel it would be a great, the other thing is that if this fails, that piece of land will be perfectly useless. It is not, I don't know if they have an A14, but this land is not a farmland. It's rocks with a little bit of soil on top, and I had some animals there at one time, but it is not good farmland. And it is really only suitable for a home or wasteland. And I'd hate to see it go to wasteland because it's a gorgeous piece of property.
All right. Thank you very much.
Circle back. So the whole reason we got here is when Connie approached me about possibly helping her sell some of her property. You know, I always look as a realtor as highest and best use. That's our goal. And highest and best use right now, it's just wrecked wood ground. You know, she's got a building on it. So I called Sam, you know, at the county here and asked her if, you know, the county would be in favor of rezoning this property to R1 because highest and best use is someone to put a dwelling on it because it's not being farmed. It's not good use for farming. And she mentioned to me that the property to the south was rezoned R1. She said she would be in favor, her office would be in favor of having that done. She said our first step would be going to the township board. If the township board would be approval, then we'd need to hire a surveyor, spend money to get a survey done so that we can have that survey to apply for the application. Okay. So we did go to the township, which Cannon Falls Township in the past can be very difficult from what people have experienced. They did approve it. And we went ahead and spent the money to have it surveyed and then applied for the application. So it was Connie's surprise as well as mine that the advisory board would not be in line with the county zoning and planning for use, right? As a realtor, I understand, and I specialize in selling hunting land, farmland, and rural homes. So I don't sell stuff in the city. I do have clients that want to live in the country. There is a huge demand to get out in the country. People want to work from home. They want to live out in the country. And with having 12 building sites in a section, Goodhue County is falling behind. So when you have a perfectly good property that is woods, that's not being farmed, it's in an agricultural zone, and it's zoned agricultural, you're not doing your community, the public, any good without providing the best use of that property. this property is best served for someone to put a dwelling on it, so that you can increase tax dollars to the school districts. Yes, there could be expenses to roads, but all that still has to be approved if someone's gonna actually pull building permit.
All right, we do need to move on. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wants to speak on this issue? Zoning
It's
rule
up to
board.
the board. If you offer one person to speak twice, then you need to offer.
Let's go around. You're right. And we are short on time. All right. Anyone else that wants to speak that hasn't spoken yet? All right, motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
We have a second?
I second.
All right. Motion and second to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Sam? Sorry about that.
Did you?
Nothing additional. Bob kind of mentioned everything that I was going to bring back up. There is an accessory building already on the property. And that, you know, approving this rezoning would only be approving it for one dwelling. Someone would need to come back and have it formally platted, approved by the planning commission and county board to add any more houses, so.
And that would be okay in an R1? I mean, it doesn't have to be more than one for residential?
Correct, nope. It would just be, just for one.
And I did miss this meeting. I know I'm on the planning PAC, but there has been a push to, you know, protect as much ag land as we can, but this doesn't come into the ag land scenario. So I'm really torn. I mean, we have a PAC for a reason. And they saw something that, but I don't know if this is a.
Well, from a consistency standpoint, we just approved one right next to this that actually was field. And we approved it with a plat with 3 dwellings. And to say this one doesn't and that one does is not at all consistent. From a consistency standpoint, this fits, has a outbuilding already established on it. Township said yes. The roads are roads. Will the road need to be improved for a building site to be put there?
That would be up to the township.
But from our standpoint,
No,
if you have a road that goes back and serves 3 houses, it has to be a certain width, correct? In our zoning,
yes, that, and that
and
width would be,
22 feet would meet that.
yes, our width is 20.
So I don't see that we can, I don't see a reason to not approve it.
But the
And to
planning
be,
commission did.
well, the planning commission, I don't know as their findings as far as septic, they had no data that says that a septic would not work there. They didn't follow any kind of data that gave them the direction that says, no, we should not approve this. When they approved one right next to it, 6 or 2 years ago, or whatever it was.
Are they looking at 3 dwellings on the original application? Was it said could be 3?
So it said they would like to have 3, but it'll be up to any future buyer to get the second and the third approved through the planning process. So they'll need to show that they can meet the grade for driveways, that they can have, you know, septic systems out there that meet the standards, all of that.
And not, you know, as they asked about frontage roads, we don't know the future. There could be a frontage road that gives them 2 access points to that property in the future. We don't know that. And that may change the whole thing as to where, you know, whether they would ask for more. But at this juncture, if we're consistent as a board, you would approve that.
And I think it's the consistency, but also the staff's report that the comprehensive plan says, and that we want to support the establishment of rural residents to provide rural living opportunities in the unincorporated areas of Goodhue County and direct the location to areas that minimize loss or conversion of prime agricultural soils. So we're not impacting agricultural, this isn't a farmed area. It's not, and then also it's very close to Cannon Falls and there's lots of residences in the area. So it seems like if we're really trying to increase rural residents in unincorporated areas, that this would fit that bill as well, in addition to the consistency.
All right, do we have a motion one way or another?
I'll make a motion to approve the rezoning.
Second.
All right, any other comments or questions? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right, motion passes. Public Works Director's report.
Good morning, Commissioners. Our first matter today is a request to auction unit number 0601, which is one of our tandem snowplow units. I wouldn't normally bring a request to auction a piece of equipment to you, but in this case, we would be going down a tandem unit without a definitive delivery date on its replacement. The request to auction the unit, though, is to hopefully elicit a little better monetary return versus trading it to the company that we're working with to get its replacement vehicle. So that's what we're requesting today, and looking for any input or questions from the board.
Would there be a minimum reserve amount then?
Yes, we would essentially probably set that minimum that we would get for the trade. And just see how we do. It's not something we've done in the past, but I'd like to take a crack at it.
Move approval to authorize the auction.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to authorize staff to auction off unit 0601. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Second matter is that of wheelage tax increase. Back on June 6th, staff made a presentation to at a committee of the whole titled Public Works Funding Options, where we discussed avenues that Public Works has available to them. That included local optional sales tax and the wheelage tax. Now the county has implemented the local optional sales tax at its full rate, and we have implemented half of what we're allowed to by statute for the wheelage tax at $10 per vehicle per year. In 2014, counties were given this ability at $10 per vehicle. In 2018, that was increased to $20 per vehicle. Revenues that are collected from the wheelage tax stay in the county where the vehicle is registered. On a monthly basis, these revenues are paid to the county by the state of Minnesota. The state of Minnesota makes those collections for us. There's several vehicle types that are exempt from collection. They include motorcycles, mopeds, trailers, semi-trailers, vehicles not subject to annual registration, for example, collector vehicles, tax exempt vehicles, state-owned vehicles, and there are some newly identified vehicles per recent 2023 legislation that I'm not 100% familiar with. And those will be identified. I believe they had something to do with veterans vehicles. So as I know more about that, I can share that with the board. Wheelage taxes collected need to be used for highway purposes, and they need to be deposited in the county's road and bridge fund. We can implement up to $20 in any increment of $1. So all we need to do as a county is to notify the state registrar. That would be done through our finance director's office by the August 1st deadline, so that any change that would go into effect would happen then beginning in 2024. A county could also elect to make those wheelage tax collections per county staff. Currently, there aren't any counties in the state that do that. They work with the state to make that collection. part of the presentation that was given to the board at the committee of the whole gave some options for the use of these dollars. Currently, the dollars that we receive from a $10 wheelage tax goes to pavement preservation. And an increase could go to further fund that or any other highway purpose that the board deems they would like to have us take a look at. Now, there is no need for us to make that election today if the board decides to increase the wheelage tax. That is something that we could discuss at a later date. These dollars are not, they are not required to have a definitive purpose like we identify through our local option sales tax. So with that, staff is recommending approving the wheelage tax from $10 per vehicle to $20 per vehicle.
From the board?
Goodhue County is one of the few counties that more than half of its budget comes from levy. So, spreading that out makes some sense to me, but it wouldn't, to me, be that an additional, I think it's in the neighborhood of $500,000 that we would spend, but more that we would get some of that money in ways other than through the levy. But I'm in support of it because I think it's good to spread it out.
I've always been supportive of user taxes, and that's all this is
Yes.
a user tax.
That's right.
You drive on the road, you pay the tax. I'd move to approve the move to $20, and then through the budget process, we'll figure out just how we use those dollars, whether it's to offset capital or whether it's to offset capital for transportation or however we do that.
Yeah.
But I,
Do we have a second?
Second it.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any other questions or comments?
Does it have to go to 20? I mean, I'm just gonna get put on the coffee shop and I'm gonna hear it. But I understand the concept of there's,
the farmer with
It-
700
it's the
acres,
levy,
the farmer that
Yeah.
has 700 acres and 3 vehicles only gonna pay $30 and
Yeah.
not a bigger percentage of it. So yes, or the business downtown.
it does spread it
It
out.
does put it to
That's
the
what I
right
think.
spot.
Spreads it out.
Just does.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to change the village tax, increase it from $10 to $20. Any other comments? And all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion passes.
Thank you. Take that much.
Minnesota County's
Yeah.
Intergovernmental Trust.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Garrett Claybaugh. I'm Executive Director of the Minnesota County's Intergovernmental Trust and appreciate you making a few minutes time on your agenda for an update from MCIT. I have, by the way, a copy of this in hard copy if you'd rather see it that way.
Yeah.
You have it? Okay, great. That sounds good. As many of you may know, MCIT serves as what you can think of as your insurer. We're not actually an insurer, we're a risk pool. And we provide workers' compensation, property and casualty coverage to 480 members across the state, including 81 counties in Minnesota. We differ importantly from what an insurer is in a number of ways. One is that our board is a board of your peers, other county commissioners, county officials from across the state of Minnesota. We currently have 6 commissioners from across the state, 2 auditors, and 1 county administrator serving on our board. So we're proud of that. We're a joint powers agency. So we were created in 1979 under a JPA. And we were created really in response to a crisis in the insurance market for local governments around workers' compensation. And so that's where we got our start, and we've expanded both our membership and our coverage types since that time. You all, as members of MCIT, get an opportunity also annually to cast votes on who serves on our board of directors. So this is your opportunity really to have a say in the direct governance of our risk pool. We are, as I mentioned, a government entity. as JPA, and so we're not for profit. We're not in business to generate profits, just to really to cover our costs, much like you. Our interests as a JPA, as a government entity in Minnesota, are aligned with yours. Many of the things we do and then a few of the things that we talk about are really in aligned with your interests as well. We're very fiscally and financially secure and proud of that over that period of time. So I want to just, I'm not going to read certainly the handout that you have in front of you, but I do want to hit a few high points. If you'll turn to page 2, for example, about a year ago at this time, we were notified by our cybersecurity risk insurer that we were being dropped from their coverage, and that was not unique to MCIT. That was really from their pool of business. They were taking that step nationwide. And so that really challenged our staff and our board to think hard about how to fill that gap. And I'm pleased to say that we were not only able to fill that gap, but I think come forward with even an improved line of coverage for our members in that way. And so that was, our board was very directive in terms of what they asked staff to do on that. We were able to respond to that, and I'm very pleased about that. We certainly continue to be focused on cybersecurity as a topic, as I know you are here in your work as well. And so while we were able to address the loss of that coverage in the short run, certainly in the long run, the bad guys are still out there. Bad guys are still out there trying to hack into systems, attack systems, and so we certainly encourage you, all our members, and MCIT as an organization to stay vigilant in that area of coverage. In the on page 2 in the yellow box down in the left-hand corner, you'll see a recap of dividends. I'm sure you've gotten, you're aware that MCIT annually for many years has paid dividends back to our members. And as our actuary makes recommendations on pricing and the long-term needs of payment for many of the obligations that we carry on your behalf, if the actuary identifies opportunities for us to return dollars to our members, we do that. And in 2022, we returned $7 million back to members, all of that from the Workers' Compensation Fund. Property Casualty Fund last year, and again for 2023, is not paying any dividends from that fund. I'm sure, like you, when you make decisions about building roads, building infrastructure, and the last 3 years post-pandemic, we've seen a lot of challenges around increases in inflation, shortages of labor, shortages of materials, and weather events have really been driving claims in the property casualty area. And so the board has taken the step now, and this will be the second year in 2023, not to pay dividends out of the property casualty, not because we're not financially sound, we are financially sound, but being very cautious about the additional activities, the claims, and the cost of those claims in the long run. So this year, the amount of money that the board has agreed to distribute back to members is $4 million. So those dollars are coming down. But again, we continue to maintain financial solvency. We're very sound and secure. On page 3, I want to talk just briefly about the charts. The top set of charts is our aggregate workers' compensation claims from the last 5 years. So this is 2018 to 2022, those 5 years combined for the pool as a whole. And when it talks about frequency, that's just simply the number of claims without regard to the cost of those claims. And then by severity includes then the total cost of those claims. And you'll see these are our counts by department in county operations. And so sheriff and jail operations is our most frequent claim type for workers' comp. And again, I think you think about what sheriffs are doing on a day-to-day basis, interacting with the public. They're out and about the county doing their work. There are injuries in that line of work for sure. And also by severity. So the cost of those claims in workers' compensation can also be pretty severe in terms of the loss of work and the impact on that workforce. Our second highest department by frequency and severity for workers' compensation is highway. Again, very difficult work, not surprising that that's second. And then in hospitals and nursing homes, both frequency and severity, that's our third area of highest claims and severity. The bottom chart, the gray chart, is the same type of information just for property casualty claims. So this is auto, other liability that we support on your behalf. Again, by frequency over that 5 years, auto claims are number one. And again, probably not a big surprise. We've got 31,000 vehicles in the combined fleets of all of our members. And so over a 5-year period, we see a fair number of claims, and also the cost of that. It comes along with that as well. Property is number two, and that story is a little different. Obviously, there aren't quite as many buildings that we provide coverage to. There's about $7.5 billion worth of value in our portfolio for the number of buildings, but one claim for one building can obviously be millions of dollars. And so that's where you see the property severity number there being that substantial number over a 5-year period. So that's just a little bit about our claims in those two areas. The bar on the right here is workers' compensation, and a little bit about how we calculate that workers' compensation calculation. It's all based on county salaries by occupation, and we risk rate those occupations based on national data that we get from a national organization. But we apply a modification factor, what's here called a mod rate. And yours is 0.916. And what that means is if your mod factor is below 1, that means you're doing better than expected in terms of your claims history. If your mod factor is over 1, then you're doing a little worse than expected. So congratulations on your safety record and maintaining the health of your employees. On page 4, again, just hitting the highlights here. I mentioned at the outset that our interests of the pool are really aligned with yours. And so there's services that we provide in addition to the coverage as well. So consultation services, we have a small field staff that is available to meet with you. We've got a couple of staff who have been identified as our lead staff in field services for Goodhue County. And they're available for consultation. So to support your safety committees, to meet with the board, meet with other members of the staff where there's needs to do that, to talk about how to improve risk management, how to improve your loss control efforts. On the upper right-hand corner there, awareness and prevention materials. We just relaunched a website. Ours was 7 years out of date, so I hear yours is refreshed every 4 to 5 years. So congratulations. We're a little bit behind the curve on that. But on that website, we just have a real depth of written materials, videos, other training materials that are available to your staff. The one that's highlighted in the picture in that upper right-hand corner is the one I just wanted to camp on for just a minute. I mentioned earlier, cybersecurity is an area that we have to be continually vigilant about. You know, there's crafty people out there trying to redirect dollars and trying to hack into systems, pull data out of those systems, data that shouldn't be released. And so we've got a cybersecurity self-assessment, and I made this available as a handout about a year ago when I was traveling the state meeting at AMC district meetings. And this cybersecurity self-assessment is a product that's on that website. And it's really a tool for you, a tool for leaders in the county, a tool for others to really have a discussion about cybersecurity and efforts that are being made at the county or any of our members to ensure that appropriate steps are being taken to really secure those systems. It's a tool, it's a self-assessment that's certainly not intended to make you an expert, but it's really intended to provide an opportunity for a conversation between members of the board, staff, and others, just to have a conversation about what those cyber needs are, which are, again, it's just an area of continued vigilance. So I want to encourage you to consider asking questions, use that self-assessment, print that off, have a conversation with your IT director and your staff about that topic. Trainings for officials and employees. We have a variety of trainings, and since the pandemic, we've been trying to do things in a more remote way, in a hybrid way. So we're doing things online. We have pre-recorded videos on our website. We continue to do in-person trainings as well. So we're taking advantage of all of the ways that we can to put information in your hands and the hands of your staff to improve their risk profile. So again, I appreciate the time that you've given me here. Would be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much.
Just like comment, you know, being on the AMC board, we get to see you pretty often. Just appreciate the work you do and the work in conjunction with AMC that you do. And this is a lifesaver of a program for counties. It just is. And the positive that you've brought to it since you've got there, we appreciate it.
Great.
So
Well, thank you
very much.
Appreciate that.
I'd just like to comment, I appreciate your work on finding other options for workers' comp out for individuals that work outside the state of Minnesota.
Yeah, I hope we're going to get some information back soon on that. You know, as you and I talked last year, we're going to the market, see what the market can provide for us. So we'll hope, keep our fingers crossed. So thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Human Service Managers Report.
Yeah, why don't the three
Sorry.
of them come up and I'll go ahead and Tessa was on, and if she hops on, we'll let her take her report, but if the three of you would come up. So obviously the county board realizes they approved the compensation study that was done this year. They approved that the last meeting in June. After that time point, we had mentioned that there was a appeal process that needed to go forward for positions that have been reviewed. That process was sent out to employees on June 5th with a deadline of 4:30 on June 11th. So those, all of those appeals, whether those were positions that were reviewed for this pay study or not, everybody was allowed to appeal. All of those went to our pay consultant, Tessa Melvin, and she used the Hay system criteria, largely looking at know-how, problem solving, accountability, working conditions. This is the plan that we've been on for, I believe, 20 years or so. And at any rate, she has her recommended list of appeals that were presented to the Personnel Committee this morning. And those are being forwarded to you for consideration. I do want to note that of the appeals that we received, only 9 of these are actually ones that she reviewed this year. Others were reviewed and provided points and grading by previous consultants. So those other ones, as you know, when we moved on to the system maintenance plan with DDA, a third of them are being reviewed this year, another third next year, another third the year after. So the longest anybody will go is 3 years before their job would be reviewed. And the ones that get reviewed next year, they will have an opportunity to appeal, just as has been done this year. It was asked if 7 days is normal for appeal process, and that is normal. And it was actually at the recommendation of DDA when we set that up. So with that, if there's any questions, feel free to ask. The HR managers may be best off to answer them. Otherwise, the recommendation would be to move forward with Tessa's recommendations.
Personnel Committee, this did have some discussion on it. We were reminded that the job classifications, she looked at the know-how, the problem solving, the accountability, and the working conditions. The market was not something that was.
This is pay equity. This is not the
This
pay.
is pay equity. This is not the chart that we had already voted on. Do you have anything you want to add? Okay. Any questions from the board?
So did these, I guess I got a question. Did most of these or appeals, did they provide a reason for the appeal? You just don't provide us a reason for
Correct.
requesting an appeal?
Each of the appeal forms, there was 3 questions that were outlined on it. Primarily, you know, what's changed in your job description, what wasn't represented, and any kind of reason that would, you know, track back to these different factors and potentially increase or decrease, I guess, the comp worth of that position.
Was a common factor which wasn't asked, but then they didn't put it in, was market pay?
So there were a number of appeals. more often we saw references to my position is like this other position versus a market comparison.
Like this other position in the county?
Correct.
Comparison that aspect.
Yeah.
Okay.
And did the personnel committee recommend accepting these? I think there's 6 people who were changed or not.
Well, maybe it was 1-to-1.
Between you two.
Todd, how are
I,
How are you
and-
reading?
and I had voted against this, but my feeling was we were already at management level was already at 110 to a larger percentage. And I just thought that, is this a chance right now that we can actually, the directors didn't all get into the same level as they were before. I don't know if that is causing problems or, this was Tessia's, evaluation of them. So my suggestion is to bring HHS and Public Works back down to 121 and bring the administrator down to 123. That would allow, so no one would be on 122, no one would be on 124, would allow for future changes if, things move up. But then I was told that then that throws the whole chart back into, what am I trying to say?
You'd have to recalibrate the whole grid.
Everything. But I just don't understand, I've heard in Scott, you say artificially move them and, and I look at the market and, if we're already 100 and whatever percent, now some of these jobs are going to be 125 or 100, I don't know if they're going to be that high, 130% over market. Is that where we want to be? I understand we want to set, 1/3, we want to be in third place by our population. I understand that. But I just, just any way that I can to save a few dollars for the taxpayers is what I'm looking for.
All right,
And do you want me to clarify on that?
I'm sorry.
Okay, so just to clarify that, this is not market, this is pay equity. So market is the discussion on the grid, that's another discussion the board can have. But as far as recalibrating, just so everybody understands, if you said that the county attorney's position is worth 10 points, and we artificially want to say, nope, that's going to be 8. So a position that used to be 8 now needs to move down to 6.4 because we're artificially moving our system. So what used to be worth 10 points is no longer worth 10 points. It's 20% less. So all the other jobs have to be recalibrated all the way down the scale. That's what I'm
So
referring
we
to.
can go to the dollar amounts and say, adjust those. We want those adjusted.
That's not pay equity. That's your market.
That's the market. So
Right.
we do have the power to do
You
that.
can do that. Yeah, but this is pay equity.
Yeah.
So you can change that.
Apples or-
You can change that grid all you want. In some cases, we have to go back to the unions to ask them to take a decrease, but we can change that all you want.
But there's nothing that's decreased on this current one. Everyone has gone up.
This is pay equity points.
Right. But I'm talking the market and the dollar value. So, but that has to be a discussion.
That's a different discussion, yes.
Jason.
I mean, I guess maybe I'm confused. So I thought that we had 2023 appeals. Are we not approving the changes in the appeals?
That's what you're doing today.
That's what we're talking
What
about.
does that have to do with pay equity?
These are appeals on pay equity points. These are
appeals on pay equity points?
Yes,
as
these
opposed to
are-
the individuals appealing their job classification?
right. So their pay equity points equal a job classification. And so these are employees saying, hey, I disagree with my class where my job was graded out. So that they're saying, and nobody asked to be lower, but that is something that Tessa could have said. So they're saying my classification's wrong. So Tessa reviewed those and this is Tessa's recommendation.
Still got me lost because I see know-how, problem solving, accountability, working conditions. Scroll to the bottom, I don't see pay equity.
That's what pay equity is. Hey, our pay equity system is the Hay pay equity system. And those are the things Hay considers.
Consider know-how, problem solving, accountability, working conditions, not whether you're a male or female.
We have to report, we get the points here. Later, we have to report, Jason, whether you're a male or female into the pay equity system. And that's what's reported to the state of Minnesota
Non-binary.
Department of Employee Relations.
Hey, Gotta love pay equity. I told you all about it before, so.
That's where my frustration, I got off the subject, but off of what this goes off.
I still don't understand how pay equity has anything to do with it. You had your classification. I don't know why it makes a difference whether you're male or female. You got classification. So let's solve that problem and then do our pay equity report. And then see where the world lies. But whatever, you guys. Pass that point.
Does anyone have a response to that?
About why we have to report it, state law.
What's,
I mean,
not reporting, I don't honestly understand what classifications, how pay equity, if, I don't know, I didn't see what they were classifying or what they were questioning. We don't know when the county attorney, we don't know the adult case administrator, court services director, we don't know, we know now they're male or female, but I don't understand why, how the pay equity comes into your, start from the top, know-how, problem solving, accountability, and working conditions. You figure all those out, doesn't matter if you're male or female, does it?
The Hay method says, you know, my job as a HR manager, I get whatever points for
Yes.
each of those 4 criteria, so
Yep.
that a similar position that's maybe male dominated, that has the same comp worth or
Yep.
pay equity points is paid likewise without considering my gender as a factor. Or saying you're a wife and a mother,
And they
you should
should
be
have
paid
added
less
it in
than
there
this
that we
person
have
who's
to
a
add
father and a
extra
breadwinner.
points depending on your male or female
Can you repeat
dominated.
No,
that?
you don't.
We don't have.
That's what you're missing,
It has
Jason.
nothing to do with what you identify as.
Well,
that
no,
what
but,
you just
but,
said, though?
no, I
No,
think,
that's the report that we send to the state.
Yeah,
This doesn't care what gender you are or what you identify as.
so you get,
When-
the-
But the state of Minnesota has passed laws that we have to report on pay equity every 3 years to the Department of Employee Relations. On that report, they do care what gender you are. And that's where they try to figure out if you're overpaying males and underpaying females.
and then the more appropriate question would be, were any of these points adjusted or moved based on the pay equity within the county? Did
Yeah.
one get higher points because we said it's a female dominated field that we had to
No.
move them up?
No.
Did one get lower because they're male dominated field?
That's why you can't deviate from the
Lost,
process. That's why you can't deviate from the process of evaluating jobs. As long as your job description is accurate, as long as you evaluate them all the same, then when you get to that end point, you will be equitable, male and female, because you didn't juggle the numbers to make this one go up and that one go down.
well, everybody who's at grade 107 gets paid the same, whether they're male or female. That's really what pay equity is, isn't it?
Absolutely. yep.
Okay.
And
And
those positions.
What
have set-
this is really not people arguing that. This is people saying I was graded at 107, but I believe I should be 108, and these are the reasons.
Yes.
Yes, and then everybody at 108 gets the same. So
Mhm.
this is people arguing about whether their grade was correct or not.
May have brought something different from their job description that moved
Right.
it
And
one
then
point.
this is Tessia's decision based on her understanding of the Hay system about people who weren't graded appropriately in the new system.
So did we not adjust somebody's grade because of how it would affect pay equity?
So
No.
in each of these that she recommended
Yep.
an adjustment, she gave a
got this.
justification for why.
So that's why, and I question this, so then when you guys started talking about this is where we come with a pay equity. That's why I wondered, Todd, like I said, you maybe got off this subject a little bit, but I thought this was just a discussion of individuals appealing their grade.
It is.
And then we started talking about pay equity. I don't know what they have.
No,
what the pay equity has to do with this appeals.
No.
This group.
But later, this is the information that we have to report to the state of Minnesota.
Mhm. But this is just individuals appealing their grade.
Thought it was that simple.
Yeah, I think it is.
It is that
Did
simple.
we start rolling down this pay equity and this is pay equity and
It's related, sorry.
that's what I'm trying to configure this is. I when I started talking about pay equity, what it had to do with these
So,
people getting.
I'm asking
appeals.
whether the personnel committee believed that the appealing of grades and Tessia's decisions about who should be moved and who shouldn't be, whether or not you guys agreed with that,
Yes. I do.
or was that 1-to-1?
Yeah, I will agree with that also.
You agreed with
All
that
right.
also. Okay.
So now we've agreed. All right, so now we know where we are, yes. When you get off on little side roads, then
So
it
this
gets
is
harder.
just about their grades and where they graded appropriately. And the county attorney and the sheriff have to have a separate discussion with the board about whether they were graded appropriately, if they so desire.
That one's up to the board and the county attorney and sheriff, yes.
Yes.
Because those also can be determined the beginning of the year, is that correct?
Yeah, there's
when
a
you negotiate?
there's a statute on both positions, and actually Steve's probably better to talk about this, but it's basically says that you're supposed to consider when you set their wages and their budget, you're supposed to be considering the duties of the office, the complexities, the size of the budget, size of the staff, all of that type of stuff.
Sure.
And technically, those two positions are not reported in pay equity.
Mhm.
So you have a classification, which she says you can use as a guideline, but you don't have to use that verbatim. So you could, but you do have to use the statute when you set salaries for those two positions.
Okay, so the question before the board is whether or not we're going to approve these grade changes of these, I think it was 6 people.
There are
Correct.
8 people.
8 people? I counted wrong, so.
And that received support from the personnel committee.
Yes.
All right, so I'll move that we accept the change of grades in the 8 positions that are outlined.
All right, we have a second.
He seconded it.
Thank you, Todd. All right, all those any other comments or questions? All right, all of those in favor of moving the appeal process forward, accepting the appeals as presented.
Accepting Tessa's recommendations on the appeals.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that passes.
Can I just ask one question to you, Scott? Sure. In a lot of counties, the sheriff and the attorney, county attorney are not in a pay scale.
True. Some counties they are though.
In Goodhue County, they always have been. Or
Not-
they have been since I've been on the
Yeah.
board.
Not always. I believe somewhere around 06 is when they first went on to that. But again, Tess is saying that that can be just a guideline for you.
Right.
Obviously, you can have independent discussions with the county attorney and county sheriff.
Correct.
Today, Chair, we do have Scott Rupke's item too. He's not on and he's not going to be on, but memo's also from you. So I think between you and I, we can take it.
Right, well, let me look.
You want me to hit the highlights and?
It has to do with the grant, correct?
Yes, yeah, so they're applying for a grant to replace one bridge and 4.5 miles of bituminous. A total of $1.934 million. And the 25% share would come out of the kind of Cannon Valley Trail funds, and that's $483,560. And of which, obviously, the board's well aware that we pay a portion of the, that we pay at City of Red Wing, Cannon Falls, I'll pay into the Cannon Valley Trail Fund. So I don't know if you have more to add. I can give you the copy of the memo too if you want.
You have got it right here.
And the reason
The resolution with it as well.
we have to approve it is because the trail's in our name.
We're sponsoring authority.
Yep.
Yeah, somebody, government authority has to be.
And
on
it's the same as
Yes.
every other grant we've approved. We won't know if we get it till Parks and Trails makes their decision. They may make a decision that we'll give you half of it and another half later, but this is replacing all the trail bituminous is original. And this would be replacing some of the original. Of course, working down the road to replace all of the bituminous on the whole trail down the stretch, but.
There was a lot of discussion on this, and we have an excellent grant writer for the Cannon Valley Trail. And so it went through a couple of different renditions, but we all are very much supportive of this particular memo and grant request.
Move approval of the resolution.
Second.
All right, any other comments, questions? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, no, memorandum of understanding, no, what is it called?
It's a resolution.
The resolution's approved. Thank you very much. It's been a long morning. All right. We're close. All right, for your information, there has been, we received the monthly finance reports, the project status report, the June staffing report, any county board committee reports. We did just have a housing subcommittee. And there are 100, 200, 207, about 230 housing units that are coming on board from the, in the Cannon Falls area.
There's 3 bigger subdivisions going in.
I'm sorry?
There's three bigger projects going forward there.
Yes. Major things coming forward. And we talked a little about setting up the housing summit coming up. We also found out that 30% of greater Minnesota is over 70 years old.
And occupies housing,
And occupies housing.
single family housing.
So that probably will be changing. Well, then the next, certainly 10 years, huh?
The tentative date for the housing summit will be October 31st. And we do realize that's Halloween, but it's also a 5th Tuesday, which makes it easier for scheduling.
I think we got,
Brad, yes, you can wear a costume.
yeah, I do every day. Don't you like it? Recently, we got some information about population and houses per jurisdiction. Like each township, each city, I think if you divided it out, I don't think there was any local unit of government in Goodhue County that had 3 people per household for an average. Everything was, I think it was 2.8 or something and down, and some were like 2.3 per household, which tells you they're not utilizing the whole.
There's
The
some
5-bedroom
houses not
houses
utilized.
aren't 5-bedroom for 5 people,
No, the days of
Yeah.
8 children are probably.
but it was interesting that not any one of them was over like 2.7 or 2.8 per household. You would have thought somewhere, but not at all.
Any new or old business? All right, review and approve the county claims.
So moved.
Okay.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to pay the county bills. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. All right.